mostly related around financial reasons. Parents worked 2 jobs, they couldn't care for the kids, they didn't have a job, they stressed out, those things. A lot of those root causes for DCS cases stem from financial reasons. So in order to prevent them from DCS involvement, it's nice to have those financial resources. We can pay for rent, we can pay utilities, we have cards for Aldi's, Walmart, Goodwill. Didn't even know Goodwill had gift cards until I started this job. We have gas cards, bus passes, so kind of all those things that can financially assist a family, along with the casework that we do with the family as far as parenting, and we have a budgeting curriculum that we use. The whole idea is to get them to a point where they're on stable ground. When we leave, then they don't end up in the DCS system and they don't end up back in our system. But the theory should be that we've connected them with enough resources that they can maintain on their own. So it's kind of nice to be on that side of things and kind of head off some of the problems that these families might have. And again, a lot of it is a lot of connection with resources. There are a few restrictions on families that we can't work with if they're involved with a current open DCS case. They can be involved with an assessment with DCS, but not an open case. They can have had an open DCS case in the past as long as it's not currently open. They cannot currently be involved with juvenile probation, and they cannot be involved with healthy families. Healthy families is kind of, I think we can get special permission to go ahead and work with them, but those pots of money are all kind of the same pot of money, so that's the reason they have those restrictions on that. Otherwise, there's no financial restriction on who we can work with, who we can't. We work with a lot of undocumented folks who come over here and have nothing. We have numerous, I don't even know how many bilingual liaisons we have now. We're up to 5 bilingual liaisons in Marian County, so I think we keep them pretty busy. We have a lot of partnerships in the community. Anybody can refer to this program. We pass our pamphlets out. Parents can refer themselves. Schools can certainly refer them. So it's a nice program to get in there. You don't have a lot of prevention that has that financial backing to it. So for me, that's kind of the selling point of this program, is to be able to have that.
Yeah, and I am Sarah Evans. I am the outreach coordinator at NACS, so my job is primarily to go out and spread the word about NACS. So I do a lot of presentations like this. I spend a lot of my day out in the community, in schools, at community fairs, health fairs. So if you're interested in having your staff or parents or families, anybody know more about NACS, that's kind of what I do. I come out and we can kind of customize the presentation to the audience. So I work with professionals and parents alike. So yeah, just let me know. I'm happy to come out and spread the word about our awesome program.
Sarah does a lot with the trainings as well. Like we do a lot of car seat giveaways, and so she does the education for the family so they know how to properly use the car seat, hook it in their car, not to put all the extra things they bought around the car seat, those things. She does Safe Sleep when we give away the pack and plays, the Purple Cry. Those are your the major ones, aren't they?
I am Schools for Children. So that is a training on preventing child sexual abuse as well. So that's a really good training. I think the schools, they have a new rule that you all have to be trained in that by a certain time. Yeah. So I think we've been kind of upping the numbers on that one as well.
I think that's us in a nutshell. Yeah.
Good morning, I'm Jeremy Coleman, Assistant Principal at Central Elementary in Pike Township. And I've got a PowerPoint, because pictures are important. But before I begin, I want to just have you guys write down this one phrase. It is, for me, it's been a game changer. And it comes from the work of Harvard psychologist, Dr. Ross Green. Kids do well if they can. And if they can, then something's in the way. And the reason that's important is I also transfer to parents. Parents do well if they can. And if they can't, then what's in the way? Now, how is this tied to parent engagement? Well, you guys know, you guys are in schools. There's a mindset that you can have with parents that'll help you, or there's a mindset that you can have with parents, it'll make your day miserable. If you believe that parents are not engaged because they are neglectful, that has a consequence to it. If you believe parents are not engaged because there's a reason for it, it'll change the way you respond to parents. We at Central Elementary have just tried to figure out what's getting in the way, what's stopping parents from coming. And one of the main reasons we thought parents weren't engaged was because the school wasn't fun. Why come to the school? It's boring, it's the same old stuff, blah, blah, blah. So we did some things around parent engagement called Parent University. And Parent University was a way to give parents skills that they can take home and use at home, they can use at school. And this is just a basic flyer. And we were excited about competition, and our parents were as well. So the one thing that we did was we had a principal versus assistant principal battle. And we marketed this battle. It was Mrs. Porter versus Mr. Coleman. And we hyped it on the school news, we hyped it on the announcements, we hyped it everywhere. But this was about a topic that was near and dear to parents. We tried to make this relevant. I know for a fact in my building, I have a parent at least once a week tell me to spank their child. If they get out of line, they give me permission to beat and abuse their kids. And I tell them, I say, listen, there are other ways to get at this, but you know, let's just suffice to say that I can't do that. You know, so the topic that we talked about was to spank or not to spank. And we had parents come in to debate. Because if you want to get people fired up, tell them they can't spank their children, right? So our debate was simply around, do we spank or not? So I took the side of, do not spank. The principal took the side of, oh, spank. And that was probably our biggest turnout because people wanted to be vocal about their beliefs. And as you know, teaching is a highly personal field because everyone's been through school, everyone has a child, everyone has an emotion about what should happen. And so I took the side of, well, listen, there is no good reason for you to spank your child. There is, in fact, several other techniques to get the skills taught. And if you can convince me that spanking teaches skills, then I'll change my position. And so the principal said, well, you know, sometimes you gotta just tighten kids up, and sometimes you gotta just one or two little, you know, just a little bit of pressure, you know, will help the kid turn the corner. And so our parents told us loud and clear that they felt like they had to be more physical, more punitive, more tough on their children. And that was data for us. We used that. We found out that if you feel that way, we have to come at you a different way. So the first thing was Parent University to spank or not to spank. After we got that data, we had breakout sessions at Parent University Part 2. So it wasn't just us talking to parents. Then we brought in community members and we had them lead small discussion groups where parents had more time to interact, to engage, to talk. It's kind of like the classroom, right? If you've ever had a lesson that went really well, it wasn't because you talked all the time, was it? Your kids were turned loose to talk to each other. So that's kind of the idea behind what we did. So I want to share just some of these photos. There's a pointer here, right, sir? Which one is it?
Not the computer, but the other.
Okay.
Or actually, no, the little.
Red?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. This is the debate. This was the principal, this is me, and we really had a good time there. Parents were engaged and fired up. During the Parent University, to keep the energy going, we had a parent raffle. And there were several prizes to give away. So we kept the energy going, we kept giving things away, we kept the dopamine levels high. Right? That's the key. This was a chance for our small group sessions to take place. We brought in people from the township, the community, the church, just anybody who was interested, we included them there. Another roadblock to having parents come in, and I know you've been here before, well, how about the kids? So if you come in as a parent, do I gotta find a babysitter? Tell you what, we got you covered. So corollary to Parent University was Youth Summit. So bring your kids, and we got programming for the kids too. Took the kids in the gym, we gave them a lesson, we gave them a chance to dialogue, and then they had some food. So this was, well, obviously you always hear about food. Food is very important, but I think almost more important than food is engagement, a reason, the why. So kids were here, this is Youth Summit, they had lesson template, things to discuss and cover, then it just had some fun too. Volunteers, activities, this parent won a raffle, she was very excited. This is one of the small groups here, just people just engaging with parents, giving them a voice. So that's kind of what I wanted to just start with. Kids do well if they can. Well, also parents do well if they can, and if they're not giving you what you want, think about what's stopping them, what's in the way, what's the roadblock, and then your job, as Mr. Dickens said, if we work for you, I want to figure out how to make you more successful, and the same approaches for parents as well. And then this is my email. At some point, you guys can plan these meetings. If you want to email somebody who's been there and done that, feel free to shoot me an email, I'll help you plan it. We've done donuts with dads, muffins with moms, grandparents, anything you can think of, we've tried, so.
I'm Jason Smith. I am a proud IPS grad. Worked in administration in public and charter sector. I'm currently working for Crystal House Academy West as assistant principal. I've been there since September of this year. Before that, I was running the alternative ed school for IPS, Positive Supports Academy in the McFarland building. There we had 6 through 12 kids that were put up for expulsion, but it wasn't serious enough to put them out. So parent involvement in that area was a little different. Some things that we're doing at our current school, which is not far from here off of Washington and Tibbs, they're really intentional about making the families feel like they're a part and that they're welcome. So any parents that want in the morning, when they drop their kids off, they can come in and eat breakfast with their kids. We don't provide the food for them on a daily basis, but a lot of our kinder, first, second parents like to come, sit with their children. In August and September, we actually let them walk them to class, but we cut that off so that the kids can, mature. After the kids leave, after the buses leave, the walkers and car riders, the parents walk to the classroom to pick their kids up. And that's powerful because they can have a daily check-in, and it keeps behavior down. Going off of what Mr. Dinkins said, the principal and I are very visible at all points in the day, especially during transitions, lunch, recess. If the parent can't get a hold of us at the moment, and a lot of times I'll get a text from the front office saying, can you talk to so-and-so? And if I'm not in a coaching meeting or in something really serious, it's top priority to talk to the parents because they are our clients. And what you'll find, you probably already know this, if you've been yelled at by an upset or an angry parent, if you haven't learned yet, it's a good time to learn. 90% of the time, they really just want to be heard. And they don't necessarily want you to solve their problem. I always try to let them know that I hear what you're saying, I'm gonna do A, B, and C and get back to you. But let the wall down, and it hurts, and we're humans. We don't wanna be yelled at or disrespected. But if you come at it from the way that Mr. Coleman was saying, is we're intimidating when they come into the school. Like, most of us have degrees, master's degrees. A lot of our parents didn't do well in school. So it's an intimidating place. And then couple that with they care for their kids, like we care for their kids. And so they're communicating to you the way that they can. And most of the time, after a parent has yelled at me one time, we've been great ever since. They don't do as much yelling when they come in and talk face to face. 6'7" kind of has a benefit. But on the phone, it does. So we partner with Gleaners Food Bank. The parents that sign up for it, we take around bags on the weekend that the kids can take home. We just had a Donuts for Dads. Last year, there was a position that got vacated, but they had monthly parent workshops that worked on parenting skills and just, recognize that some of our parents are limited and they don't know. Reflecting on the whooping thing, I have a 15-year-old and a 13-year-old, and one of them got a spanking once and the other one twice when they were real small. But as I'm studying more and more about behavior and neuroscience, it's just the opposite of what the kid needs. What they really need is love, and to know that you care so much about them that they don't want to embarrass you at school. The beatings don't work, or if they work for a little bit, that intimidation factor. But so the intentional visibility to make parents feel welcome, to understand that someone high up is going to hear them and solve their problems very quickly. Reaching out, resources, community hospital works in our building, and some of our tier 3 kids that PBIS and restorative justice and those interventions aren't working for. We try to get them signed up with community to get that extra support. But what you'll find is, and a lot of you already know this, if you reach out to companies, especially large companies, they want to help kids, and they want to feel like they're doing good. So for IPS, the McDonald's down the street, once a week they would give us 10 coupons for free meals, and we'd use for perfect attendance. We'd get their order on Thursday, go pick it up, bring it to them, bring them into the conference room. Gleaners Food Bank, when I taught at Indy Met, they donated to our food pantry along with Panera Bread. Panera throws out their day-old bread. So the next day, our counselor picked up Panera Bread. It's still good. So on Wednesdays and Fridays, the high school kids could go in the pantry on the way out of school and grab several things to take home. The opposite side of that is twice a year, our kids would go to Gleaners and help pack bags and hand out bags. So they're doing community service and getting the benefit. We've also had McDonald's offer jobs to some of our kids, some of our high school kids, in partnership to kind of be like, a two-way street. And I'm sure something will come up in the question and answer that I've forgotten. But.
Thank you. My name is Greg Yakey. I serve as vice principal at Providence Christopher High School. I've had the pleasure and privilege of working at a public school, a charter school, and now a private school. So I kind of seen it like on all 3 levels, the advantages and challenges both. So many great things have been said, and just a few months or a year ago, I was sitting right in the same shoes of you all here in the same classroom, learning, and then an opportunity presented itself, and kind of been learning from that standpoint as well. When I was an administrator at a charter school and an administrator at a private school, I saw very applicable skills or some interesting skills that we can apply, not only just for parent engagement, but also for getting the community involved. And one thing that I realized is that no matter what school you at, families are the same, children are the same. The difference between engagement and getting engagement is solely indicative on the personality of the person that is trying to get it. I've learned, and some of the things that I learned here, even in Providence Christian Ray's, that I have a different advantage that I had when I was at a charter school. The school that I'm at now is a private school. It's about 4 blocks west of Washington High School. But the community that is involved here is phenomenal. I've never been at an institution like this. This school provides a free college-based tuition for the parents. They pay about $30 a month for $17,000 a year, but it works because they have about 80 corporate partners. Eli Lilly, Bakers and Daniels, all of these people, our students, come to school and they work 1 day a week at these institutions, which is just transformational. But instead of getting paid, that pays for their tuition, right? So they kind of get that involvement. So we have mentors in corporate America that are helping these young minds out, 9th and 12th grade, and giving them that edge of what does it mean to be professional. And they come back to the school and they actually have that same mentality. And you would think like, wow, that's great, right? Because parents are involved, and there is a level of involvement, but the same challenges, because these kids come from the same zip codes that many of your students go to, they still have those same challenges. So we found that when we have them at our school, we do a pretty good job of cultivating the expectation and trying to provide a mission for them to be successful. But the challenge is that when they leave our bubble, they go back to that same community. They go back to those same habits that can become challenging, that can threaten the opportunities that lay in front of them. So one thing that I'm pretty proud of that we kind of instituted was something that we wanted to get more community involved in. Sometimes when you have a great mission like we have teachers and faculty that love it. They'll travel multiple counties to come and work at this school, right? I have people who travel an hour and a half one way, hour and a half back. So it's not a commitment, but it's a lack of connection, right? So they're not connected to why students respond a certain way because they don't really understand where they come from. So we just did a project where we decided, instead of trying to get the kids from our community, come to us. So we're busing kids from every side of town, but the majority of our kids come from the Far East side. And as Mr. Dinkins alluded, there's a food desert, there's a financial desert, and now there's a lack of education there. There's no high schools. John Marshall closed, Broadbrook will close, Arlington is the middle school, and Lighthouse East, which is on Franklin Road, is closing next year. So these kids, unless you live in Warren or Lawrence Township, they are riding at least an average of 45 to 50 minutes. That's a huge problem, right? It's a huge problem because that community now is suffering. So we said, we came up with the idea, if we want to be really community involved, it doesn't make sense to say, come to our school. We need our school to go to the community, right? Now that is a revelation that sounds good, but you have to understand the community when you go there, right? So you gotta understand that if I'm going to the community, you gotta understand what does 42nd and Post Road look like, all right? So we can't just come with the great big idea and with the buses and rah-rah, and we don't understand what they go to. So we need to partner with agencies who are already doing it. So there's a wonderful Boys and Girls Club there called Finish Line Boys and Girls Club. I happened to walk in one day, went in there and started shooting hoops with some of the kids. I knew some, I knew the unit director. Hey, I got this wild idea. Let's come together and let's have a satellite open house where we can bring our school here, and that way we can kind of advertise. He said, great. Went around, I started canvassing, he thought I was a Jehovah's Witness. I'm walking door to door. I went into every apartment complex there, introduced myself, told them what I'm doing and what I'm trying to offer. No one kicked me out or pushed me away. They actually were welcoming, because it was like, wow, for once someone is coming to us and not us sending them there. So we went there and we brought our school to the community, and that just blew open doors, because it's amazing that when you get into the community, when you get outside of the four walls, you'll find a level of quiet support that you never knew existed. From there, I got local pastors invite me to their churches. One of the pastors took me on the AM 1310 to Light. Then I got on the radio. Then one pastor said, I have someone who's connected. Y'all might, think I'm familiar. I went on Channel 13 live, went on, told my barbershop to give me that good, Ebony Man of the Month cut. I went on Channel 13, and it blew my mind, because now I have a platform to advocate for quality education for all. Now, I'm not just representing Providence Cristo Rey, I'm representing all of these great schools that want to get in the community and and now I'm advertising for parents. So we went from just a small idea that I thought of when I woke up in the morning, walking into a Boys and Girls Club, just walking into these places, and now this wonderful opportunity took place. And everything that we had to offer was free. So when we had our community open house, yes, our school was there, but I invited another school that was down the street there. Now I'm partnering. Then I invited another, La Plaza, that's the Spanish-speaking organization. I'm partnering with them. I went out and said, hey, it'd be great to have food. We don't have money. Now I'm partnering with Papa John's. They said, great, I'll give you 10 pizzas. All right, now I got a contact now that I can add to some other events. So this really just opened up the door. So anything that I can give you about getting the community involved is very simple. The only sacrifice you have to make is sacrificing your time to go out in the community and be invisible. If you are not willing to sacrifice time that you're not getting paid for, but it will pay later on, then you're not ready for community. Because a lot of people want community, but they don't know what community looks like because they don't want to get their hands dirty. And I had some staff that were so afraid because they saw the news and what the East Side was until they got out there. It was like, man, it's not like that at all. I said, absolutely not. Because once you really get there and you see that every human being desires and they want the same capacity, they want a quality of life, they want to feel safe, and they want someone to know that they care for them, right? And if you come and you give them that resource, that's great. So then our school started partnering with the Boys and Girls Club. Then we start going there. We have a program at our school called the Barbershop where we come together, we mentor those that are young men, those that are struggling, those that are about to be suspended. We sit down, give them a free quality haircut, and we talk about positive image inwardly and outwardly. Well, we took our barbershop to the Boys and Girls Club, just free haircuts. And they come on out there and just to interact with the kids and just give them a positive fingerprint. So just in case they want to look for a school, they can think of us, but if not, we made a good connection. Because that positive haircut maybe can change that kid's life so they don't have to rob somebody. Because it's bigger than my Providence Christopher High School. We have to use education as a tool to disciple a generation so they don't make the same plights that we read about on the news, right? And I think everyone here is probably aware of that rapper that was killed called Nipsey Hussle and how he really did great things in his community. But I think about the young men that killed him. I'm thinking to myself, a barbershop program could have helped change that young man's life. So he could have went to that young man and made some type of agreement to build up the community. So it's really so much bigger than just the I-STEP score at ECA. It's really involving the community into what education really can transform their lives to be. So I'm honored to be here. And if you have any questions, I'm more than free to.
Have y'all written your questions down? You got your questions ready? Okay, we're gonna ask them a ton of questions. I'm gonna start, and I'm gonna ask Sarah or Karen a question. Karen, Sarah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the purpose of this meeting is to help, and you would be amazed by the community organizations that the schools that they serve are already connected to. But we understand as school leaders that we have to continue to engage and bring as many resources to our schools as we can. And what we just heard from the school leaders is oftentimes it takes an effort from us to go to the community. What advice would you give school leaders, some of them are principals now, administrators now, what advice would you give future principals of how to engage your organization and how to leverage the resources that you have? And also, this is a two-part question, do you find it as the heavy lifting is coming from your organization to go to the schools, or do you have schools that are knocking down at your door begging to utilize your resources?
I think that it is us definitely going to the schools, and I think even that becomes a struggle. I'll just use this as an example, we just had this the other day. We had a teacher, God love her, she found out at the end of the school day that the mom was homeless and the kids were homeless. So she went through several resources, called us, we put the mom in a hotel, and it's like she didn't really know that much about our services, but Sarah's been to that actual school, knocking on that door numerous times with no response back to kind of get our foot in the door there. So I think there's clearly a need, but I think it's hard for us sometimes to know who to contact in the schools, because our first contact is the receptionist. That's not the person that, ultimately does that. sometimes even if we talk to a principal, be clear, you guys aren't the ones that, get that information out either in the classrooms. Like for me, I think it's more pulling in those teachers. They're the ones that see, day to day, the kids that come in kind of dirty, the kids that, maybe steal some food at lunch, they're probably hungry. They're the ones that see those things, and so they're probably more who we need that connection with, but we certainly need administration's, support for the teachers to make those referrals.
Awesome. Sarah, thought?
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. So previously, Children's Bureau also has a shelter, so I was the education coordinator. So I was in the schools a lot advocating for those kids that were living in the shelters. And so some issues that I ran into frequently in schools was that we would have a great plan and communicate with one person in the school and everybody would know what was going on. And that information wouldn't get spread around the school to the other people who needed to be involved. So I just think maybe improving and opening the lines of communication where the teachers know to talk to the social worker and to the principal and to the receptionist, so everybody kind of is on the same page about what resources are available, what's going on, and who to go to say like, hey, what do you think about what organization would be able to help with this specific issue, and not kind of just relying on just the teacher, because that teacher, she called several organizations and she was like, I'm going to take care of this problem, and maybe just having a support system in place where she would have known like, oh, this person might know something, just so having available resources where everybody kind of works as a team to work together instead of kind of everybody being responsible for their own information.
I'll ask one more follow-up question. And you don't have to name the school, but what can you describe or share an experience that you currently have or have had in the past with the school that they do a very good job with the things that you just recommended to us? So their principal, or there's a point person at the school that makes sure you all get in front of teachers. Can you share an experience that you currently have or have had?
As I say, I've only been at this organization for like 2 months, so prior to that I was at DCS, and so that was a different beast, but I know Claire meets a lot with, and I'm not sure which district it is, but she meets and goes and does a lot of presentations, so I know that there are some schools out there that have her come in, present our program to the school, like they brought them all together, and she makes those presentations, we pass out the information, we talk to them. But I think some of it is just that follow-up piece too. We all get these folders, you're gonna forget about these folders, right? I mean, they're lovely, but you're gonna forget about them, and then you're not gonna remember what that service was. So I almost think there needs to be something set up where it's a constant reminder. Like we can come to, when you have a PTO meeting, you have parents' night or whatever, we can come sit at a table with a booth, pass out our stuff as people come out. I think it's just that continuous recognition at the forefront. Hey, I've got a folder that's, in my drawer with that information, and just keep it fresh.
Can I add on to that?
Please.
So something I started about 4 years ago that was huge for me. When you have staff meetings, have your receptionists, your administrative associates, your custodians, your cafeteria people in there, so that when you are repetitively sharing the school vision and mission, that they understand how you operate, because you notice sometimes it's disjointed, like they're on an island, they don't know what's going on, so they need to understand what we're about. And so, the second part to that is, when I get a position at a new school, I spend time with that administrative associate for similar reasons, and we meet on Wednesdays and Fridays, and one of her duties, when I was assistant principal school 58, unknowingly I was dodging this phone call from this agency, and they just wanted to give us free book bags and school supplies, to listen to every person that calls and take notes and report to me after the buses pull off on Wednesday and Friday, and then follow up with me to make sure that I contact those people back. because there are people that are trying to sell you things, and then there are people that just wanna help the kids.
That's good. I wanna celebrate Ryan for bringing us, Sarah and Karen. I really appreciate that. Do you wanna share, like, how that relationship has positively impacted the school?
Yeah, so, it's Clara, right?
Clara's the first.
She came and put on a presentation in Warren Township for deans and, TOSAs, and I was like, oh, awesome, this is a great resource, and literally the next day, I reached out to them, because I had a family come to me that there's a big breakup between the husband and the wife took the kids, and those kids are in our district, but they had moved into, I believe, Lawrence now, and, you know, I'd worked with this family before, and, the referral process was super easy, and they're super easy to work with, and, just the resources that they have that I didn't even know about. And I do keep your folder, the first one I have right behind me in my file cabinet, and I think I've used it a couple times, but it was, yeah. So when you started talking about the panel that you're gonna have, I thought it could be a useful tool for administrators. Now, is it just Marion County right now? Is that where you guys for now?
But everywhere else, there is a community partners in every single county in Indiana, but we're called NACS. It's the same program though.
Okay.
So I will say Marion County has, our structure is a little bit different. We have more resources available, but there is help in every other county. Just search community partners. Children's Bureau has a contract for most of central Indiana. But if Children's Bureau doesn't have that contract, we're happy to tell you who does. So you guys can call us, you can Google community partners, and we're happy to get you that information.
Yeah, thanks for coming out.
Mr. Coleman, I have a question for you, sir. What attributes of school leadership do you feel are important to building strong parent partnerships? So you all, have taken some steps to strengthen that. What are the ideas or thoughts or the posture, or even the character of school leaders that are important to make sure that's healthy?
You said the word servant, which is tied to servant leader, and if you guys understand that your role is to serve parents, you're just on the right track. But I would say outside of that mindset, thinking about what's problematic for a parent, if you just take the empathy step and just say, well, what if I had 3 kids? What if I didn't have a stable job? What if I myself had trauma, didn't understand how to actually parent? How would I receive phone calls from a school that tells me my child is in trouble, getting suspended? And then with all that said, how quick or would I be in a hurry to come to that school? If that profile is common in your parents, then now you begin to understand why your numbers aren't as high as you want them. So I know that we've had to talk to our teachers about making more positive phone calls than negative. And it's a simple adjustment, but it pays dividends because those parents realize that you see value in their kids, and now they're more likely to come in. So servant, empathy, putting yourself in those shoes and just figuring out, how would I want to hear this message, and then why would I want to come to this school? Like, what is it about this school that's even enticing? And then once you do a self inventory, maybe you'll see some things like, oh wait, maybe we aren't always friendly when they walk in. Maybe I think about the times that she has been in here, what were they for? Suspensions, behavior plans. If the only time your parent comes in is because of negative reasons, then you kind of understand why they're kind of reticent about coming in. So that's kind of what I would say.
I'm gonna put them all on the spot. How many of you all, your school leaders have parent involvement policies current in your school?
So,
Okay, so we okay, we got opportunity, right? There's opportunity.
yeah, so and I've only been with this organization since the end of September, but I feel like without it being said or done, that they have a problem with policy and putting things in writing and making them concrete. I think part of that is to be organic and flexible, and to not say our policy says this is what we have to do. But their actions, it's not a policy, but their actions say we value parents and that you're welcome here and we need you here.
No, I love that. That's a good part of our conversation before you all came in was, we took a survey and asked us questions. How do we engage? What resources do we provide for parents? What behaviors create a friendly environment? And we just kept seeing opportunities, you know, and I think that's good. The bigger question, I think, for all of us is, if there is not policy, and policy meaning this is the expectation for how you engage parents, do you lead it to personality? So and I love, this is a sharp group, as a teacher, when I didn't turn lesson plans on time, and then I became assistant principal, it kind of flipped, because it was like, I was on the other end. I was the one that wasn't turning lesson plans on time, and now I have to be the one that makes sure teachers turn lesson plans in on time. Then when you go to the principal, when you're an assistant principal and you don't always do bus duty, or you don't always at the cafeteria on time, and then you become the principal that must make sure that administrators are in the cafeteria so that it's safe. So we're talking about modeling the appropriate behaviors, but it's okay for it to be assumed that we have a policy. I assume our hope is that you would be friendly to everybody versus policy that says this is how we behave with parents. This is how we communicate with parents, because policy is black and white. If you're abiding the policy, then this is what I should see. If not, this is the other side of what I should see. So, and I'm learning too, because I've never had a parent policy as a principal, right? I try to model the behavior, but does that hold everybody accountable to the same behaviors and the same expectations? So that's why I asked the question. For either you, Mr. Smith, or Mr. Yankee, you all have sat in their seats. You've been through the program, and now you are school leaders. And y'all pretty transparent. I know you be pretty transparent. How was it easy to apply the things that you learned in the program, or did you have to get your hands back before you implemented the things that you learned?
So you go into an organization and you fill it out and you see your philosophy and what you've been taught and how they run. So like with you guys talking about making a policy for parent involvement, we don't have a document, but there's a document that by September you've visited every one of your family's homes.
Is that policy?
There's a document.
Okay.
and when we have our data, our data chats weekly, we check that to make sure, you know, you still got 4 more home visits, make sure why aren't you getting out there? Do you need to, is it a bad neighborhood? Do you want one of us to go with you? So there's not a policy, but there's policy. Does that make sense?
Yes. Does anybody have a follow-up question?
A practice and a way to monitor.
Please.
So, again, coming from being the education coordinator and advocating and acting as a parent would act for kids in the foster system who have been removed, I think I want to encourage you all to go a layer deeper, because those kids need so much more attention. And so for me, as the education coordinator, it made my job so much easier. I felt I knew that we were gonna have a good relationship with the school if they called me before I called them. So when we get a new kid, the first thing I do is call the school. And I love the days where I come in and I have a call from the school and they're like, hey, we got the paper when the kid got dropped off. Can you fill us in what's going on? So I know that those are schools that are on top of it. They're encouraging and they see the kid for their potential and they want to lift them up and encourage them in their really tough situations. And then I also have the schools that were like, well, you're not their parent. I'm like, yeah, I know that. And they kind of wanted to only work with DCS because they were their guardian, but the kids were living with us, and so just kind of looking at those unique situations and having, like making sure that your policies are able to address all situations, because some schools would be like, well, this doesn't work with us, and I was like, you have nothing that says what works for this kind of kid. So just making exceptions for those, or accommodations for those unique situations, and being flexible and taking those extra steps to make sure that everyone, is served by your policies.
That's so good. Yes, sir.
To her point, may I ask, by show of hands, how many are K-5 or K-6? Then how many are middle school, then high school? It's important to know too, that your strategies, your approaches will be different at each level. I mean, I'm lucky, this is why I chose elementary, you can do a lot of cornball things and the kids love it. I mean, you can do anything for a first grader and they will go crazy. But in middle school, too cool for school, right? So how do you speak to a middle schooler who just wants to play Fortnite and be on Snap? It's a whole different thing, so you gotta think about that. And then in high school, it becomes a even greater challenge because these kids are mostly self-motivated, and the ones who aren't, on some level they've chosen some things, so how do you engage them? And then, you know, parents in secondary, from what I've found, are less engaged than elementary. So if your elementary schools aren't getting those numbers out, man, what are your middle schools doing? So you got to think about that too.
I like that you mentioned about the strategy that you have to think when at different levels. We are high school, and I belong to Freshman Academy. We have Freshman Academy in our school. For a little bit, we have a little autonomy with freshmen of what we can do. What happens is you can do a lot of awarding and stuff like that for other levels. What is happening in Freshman Academy personally this year, it's too difficult to even announce the ones who are achieving, because it might make or break the person who are not listed in the board even. The teachers were arguing about should we put the GPA or not. Yes, definitely for us teachers, we would say, yeah, we should be proud of for them having a 3.0 or a perfect 4 GPA, but how will it affect the majority of the population because they have even not reached a 1 GPA or probably barely, or have not credited 8 of the courses. So it's difficult because it's definitely, I like that you mentioned that because for elementary, definitely that would be a big encouragement for the population as a whole and the community. In high school, it shuts down or it could move the bus right away. So,
Mr. Gay, you talk about, you all have over 100 corporate partners, right? These corporate partners invest $6,200 per kid. What's the conversation you have with these organizations that some of the organizations have like 40 kids, right?
Yes.
So what is the conversation like that you can convince an organization to give you $6,000 per kid for 40 kids?
Yeah, it's interesting. It often starts with conversation. Part of my job now is vice principal. I spend half of the moment, half of my time in the school, and the other half I'm in the community, talking, explaining our school mission with these organizations and with these companies. And we make it very clear, and I found it a lot more convincing, is that when you come and you share why you're there, right? So we are a mission-driven school, point blank, and we just say that I think this is a unique opportunity for your company to be invested to our school, and this is why.
Can you, I'm not sorry,
yeah.
Can you share what the mission is? What's the mission of the school?
So in a nutshell, our mission is to go and specifically go after underprivileged kids income-wise, and give them an opportunity to have a private school experience at a top-rated school for minimal to nothing. We got like 36 schools like ours across the country. We're the only one in Indiana. So a lot of metropolises like Detroit, Chicago, New York, Columbus, Cincinnati, these schools exist. And we tell them that this is a transformational experience and we want them to be a part of it because we're gonna teach them how to have a corporate experience, how to be ready for the real world while you get in high school. So that's the mission. And we tell the companies that the only thing that we want is an opportunity for you to understand why it's important for today. We talk about what the data says. Students don't have an opportunity to have these transformational experiences that typically be limited to what they see in the community. So Eli Lilly, one of our biggest partners, and I tell every company that I have, I said that these students see pharmaceutical sales every day, right? They just don't see it done the right way. So if they see pharmaceutical sales in the community, we call them drug dealers, and they see what the drug dealers get, and they see the cars that they get, and those drug dealers do meet a need. If they don't have money, then these things are happening. Well, we give them an opportunity to see what real drug dealers do. When you can get paid $400,000 to $500,000 just for pharmaceutical sales, that's a transformational experience, right? Because every child, I remember when I worked with the 100 Black Men, they had a slogan, what they see is what they be, right? And if they only see that, then eventually it's gonna be hard not to see or not to become what you only saw. So a lot of organizations, you'll be presently surprised that they have hundreds of thousands of dollars set aside for community involvement. Once they understand what this is a part of their community involvement, they see the actual need. So we have a huge contract with the Department of Education. We get the work study, we get the job, what am I trying to say? Yes, the job placement and the work certificates, right? They're 14 years old. We have already the lesson plans done, and then the school gets this huge benefit to be showcased that they're giving back to the community. And now we have all these organizations that are talking, and if you can get one champion at any business to talk to the other guy at the lunch or at the golf course, oh, that's cool. Now we have another partner come on. So now we have minorities a part of it. It's really transformational because now these kids are working and they're seeing people that look like them who are hugely successful. And these people come and they offer scholarships. And when you come to our graduation, you have the inner city with the grandmamas, right, and the aunties, and then you have the corporate mentors that don't look like them, but they have the same investment here, crying and hugging hands. Is really what the world needs to see, that these kids can achieve if given opportunity.
Sarah, you talked about how much you love when a school is ready for you to engage them. They call you and engage you. Is this person the principal? Is this a parent coordinator that it has that sole responsibility of that?
It depended on the school.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of schools, kind of their social worker is the designated person for that and would call me. Some schools went like so above and beyond that I can tell it was maybe like a communication thing. I would get like a call from 2 or 3 different people. So yeah, I would say like having that defined role as okay, who's gonna contact a transition in a guardianship. Like somebody was saying there was like a divorce and one parent took the kid, so who's reaching out to that person? The parent people or schools with defined parent coordinators, they kind of had a really good idea of what that looked like because they had dealt with those situations before.
Okay. Gentlemen, who was responsible for the family or community engagement in the schools?
Our school counselor.
School counselor?
I am.
You are?
Our school counselor, and then we have a recruitment officer. And besides recruiting families, she also does some outreach and.
Are there metrics that say you're doing it well or you're not doing it well?
I had to create my own.
Okay.
And I created my own because of the new position that was given. And I created my own, and I do want to share this because when you have an opportunity to get, if some of you are already in there, you have an opportunity, you have to be your biggest critic as well as your biggest fan. And if you don't create something to showcase the value that you bring to an organization because you're valuable, you will be taken for granted, and or you won't really have the opportunity of advancing that you should. So my grandfather used to say, it's a sad day when a dog can wag his own tail, right? So I created something that showed what I wanted to do, and I also put in things that the school attributed to. And I created that, and I made sure that both the principal and president knew that I was creating that, because they gave me this position, but with no metrics, just say, go do it. And oftentimes, when you do those things, you can forget what's being done. But you also want to showcase what you are, because at the end of the day, you are valuable. And there can be opportunities that come your way, right? And you don't want someone to take, or you feel taken advantage of. When the opportunity comes, they need to know what you have to value. So, say if a principalship comes up, and if you don't showcase your value, and they may bring in somebody, because it happens all the time, someone else that they see, well, they need to understand that this is what I can contribute to. And there's schools that will take what you have and take that as valuable. So I'm very committed, but I understand that this is a kingdom work. This is a lot of things going on. So you must create something that track your own progress. So just in case a promotion comes or something comes up, you have something that can articulate.
That's really good. You said counselors. Who holds the counselors accountable for the outcomes?
Well, the principal should, but I think they don't, it's different in an MSD because of the structure. There's built-in partnerships, but it's not as active as what Mr. Gakey is doing. It's not as, I think charters are much more, I would say, hungry in their desire to gather more partnerships. Townships maybe have their foot off the gas a little bit, I would say.
Why?
Well, I think, one, the student enrollment is kind of built in, it's baked in, and partnerships are kind of already baked in, they're established. And plus, in most cases, the MSDs already have a established group of people that they actually work with, so that might be why, but, just spitballing here. But, may I just go back to Mr. Yankey's point about the dog and its own tail? I love pithy quotes. Would you say it again, please? A dog, it's a sad day when what?
It's a sad day when a dog can't wag his own tail. Someone else can't.
Gotcha.
Someone else gotta wag the tail for you.
I'm like it, but I'm not quite.
Yeah,
Can't wag his own tail. Okay.
Floor is open. Whatever questions you all have for the entire panel.
Question, Mr. Coleman, you got the parent university. In what ways do you incentivize, or how do you persuade teachers to stay here?
Yeah, that's a strong question, and that might be one of your biggest roadblocks when you don't have teacher buy-in. We always try to talk about the emotional bank account of students. I'll do PDs throughout the year. I say, well, is your account negative or positive with the kid? Every time you refer a kid, put a kid out of your room, make a negative comment, you're taking a withdrawal of money out of an account. Every time you praise a kid, money's going back in. So we try to just say, guys, if you want results being the output, you gotta think about the inputs. And it's not just teaching, but it's also pouring into. And if teachers understand the value in that, then they become advocates themselves, and they are more willing to do it. But it's very tricky, because you can't mandate they stay. You can't make them stay. It has to be, if your school has a negative school culture, then that means somebody has to persuade and show teachers why it's important to do it, and then they have to do it ultimately. What would you say your current cultures are teachers more likely to do it or not?
So we have, some of our younger teachers are more likely to do it. We have a very old staff, and they go by their contract. Contract tells me I don't have to be here till here, so I'm not gonna be here.
Here's one way to do it. So think about what those veteran teachers have to offer. Think about what they're good at, or what skill they have. And then you need to pitch it to them to use that skill at the event. So say one teacher is good at poster making. And you go to the teacher and say, well, listen, we need you to do this. And when you ask someone to use their talent, they're more likely to do it, and they get more buy-in. So I would think about those veteran teachers, find out what they're good at, and then ask them to do small bits to help out. And then over time, they'll see the value in it, and maybe they'll be more likely to do it.
Yes, I build on that. So one thing we do at If you're staying for the dance, you can go home, whatever. So if you do choose to stay, you have that time. If not, from 1 to 4 during that PD time, you can help set up the gym. You can help with like refreshments and just all that stuff. You're using, like you said, different skills. So that way, if you don't want to stay from 6 to 8 or whatever time it is, you have those different opportunities as well where you can still do.
Sorry, one thing, grandkids. So if you have older teachers, they love their grandchildren. So why not bring your grandchild to the event? Right? Find ways to cater to the grandchildren. Now you got the grandparents, right?
Do you guys do education, for the teachers, like, I'm sure you do, but like the importance of like recognizing the childhood trauma in the kids, and like for those bad kids that are in your class, like to show like, if you make that connection at home, how that helps the child, with some of those things?
For me, it's yes and all caps.
Yes. So I hope I'm answering this. I've done 6 neurobiology PDs that were optional for teachers to talk about trauma, neglect, and adversity's effect on childhood development and brain and behavior. With the thought of it, I don't know how the crowd looks. You get some of you guys look young, some of you look a little more our age. If you've seen The Matrix, you know,